So good afternoon, and thank everyone for joining the second UK&I VCF enablement series. So hopefully a good number was able to watch our March edition. I'd just like to say welcome to everybody who's registered since March. I know there's a good number of you, so welcome to the series. Hope you've had a good Easter and enjoyed the short week. I think next week's going to be a hot one, so let's make the most of it. So my name's Carl Barrington. I'm one of the solution architecture managers here at Broadcom, and today we're going to be listening to Andy Pearce, one of our specialist solution architects, going over HCX to migrate workloads into VCF. But before I hand over to Andy, for the people who were on the call last month, I did say I was hopeful to be able to call out the Explore on Tour dates. Unfortunately, that's not quite ready yet to be able to announce a date. I still can say mid-September. I'm going to put my head on the block and guarantee that in the next webinar, I'll be able to share more on the details of the dates, the locations, the process to register. But what I will do is I will put in the chat a link to the uh, Explore Insider newsletter, which as soon as there is, um, bear with me, just do that for everybody. But as soon as that is announced, it will be shared. It will be shared in the newsletter. So if you're really keen to know and to get registered early to secure your space, then yeah, please register for that link. I'm not going to labour through Vegas. Everybody knows the purpose of Las Vegas is our flagship event. If you're able to get yourself out there, that's great. But the change for this year, for people who are not aware, is we're not running in Barcelona and it's going to be um, in country. So this is a UKI webinar. So obviously got one in London, and there's other ones in Frankfurt. You can read at the bottom of the slide. So if there's something or a colleague who's interested to get involved, then please let me know. So at the end of this webinar, we again will put up a survey. Thank you very much for the high numbers of you who completed the survey. It was myself and the team went through that, and that's where we've chosen the topic from today based on the feedback. So it is important. We do read it. Don't feel it's a wasting exercise. Um, Again, we will review the feedback and then select the next topic based on where we think there is the most requests. So as usual, feel free to post questions in the Q&A. We've got a team of my colleagues who's going to be responding to those as we can in real time. And yeah, we'll go through and try and answer as many as we can. If we can't answer them, we will take them away. And we did follow up with a couple of people after the last session regarding a couple of queries. So yeah, we will do our best to be able to support. So in that point, Andy, would you like to just quickly introduce yourself and take us away?
Hi there, everyone. My name's Andy Pearce. I've been at VMware or Broadcom for just coming up to 10 years now. And the topic today is, as Carl said, is going to be around HCX. And I'm part of a global internal SME subject matter expert group called HCX Majors. So yeah, I've done enablement for our internal teams as well as external enablement. So yeah, been working on HCX for a number of years. Yeah, so let's get going and let's get into the meat of the presentation. So what I want to do is quickly recap what you actually get within VCF, and part of what you actually get is HCX, which is in the blue section, right? So everything that you get as part of a VCF SKU is included in blue. The add-on bits are the green bits. Okay, so HCX is included within VCF, so it's not an add-on; it's all included. And previously, before subscription SKUs, HCX for on-prem, the only way that you could actually get it was by purchasing the most expensive version of NSX, And that gave you the base version or base license tier of HCX. And then you needed to purchase an additional license for HCX to get the enterprise tier. Now, within VCF now, you actually get the enterprise capability of HCX all included. So previously, not many people actually used HCX, but realistically, now it's part of VCF. You should actually understand what it provides and the capability. And hopefully, I'm going to answer that in this session today. So, um, uh, what does HCX provide? So if you've got an environment that is running an older version of VCF or vSphere and vSphere only, or Hyper-V or KVM, HCX provides the ability to migrate those workloads from that older environment into your new private VMware Cloud Foundation environment, your new on-prem private cloud. And HCX migrates those workloads in a non-disruptive way. There's other ways we can actually do it within other migration tools like Layer2 VPN and vSphere replication. But when you start understanding the capability of HCX, you'll understand the value that it brings to you as a customer or as a as a customer. Okay, so not only does it migrate from, if you like, an older environment or from KVM to Hyper-V, once you've got vSphere Foundation, what it allows you to do is rebalance data centers or environments. So if one is running really hot, say at 80, 90% utilized, and you've got another data center, another availability zone, that is running at 20, 30%, what HCX allows you to do is migrate workloads around to provide a more balanced heat map. So rather than running a data center really hot at 80, 90%, and one slightly colder at 10, 20% or something, you can like move workloads around to get them both balanced at around about 50% utilization if you want. Okay. So it also gives you that portability from your on-prem environment to either VCFP environments, so they're the cloud providers, or the public cloud providers, the hyperscalers, so the VMware Cloud on AWS, the GCVEs, the AVSs of the world. Okay, so all of the public hyperscalers have HCX as part of the service to allow you to migrate workloads to them. And as VCF now, you get the ability to move workloads from them back on-prem if you so wish. Okay. Okay, so it gives you that fully hybrid model. Okay, so a lot of people actually use it for a number of different reasons. I'm going back into February 2022. HCX was used extensively to migrate a huge number of workloads out of Ukraine into other countries. Yeah, because HCX, what I deem as an appliance, which is a virtual machine. Okay, there is no physical hardware required to stand up and start the migration process. So, yeah, yeah. So if there is an issue or something that you need to suddenly migrate workloads out of a data center, out of an environment quickly, HCX, you can stand it out really quickly and start migrating workloads within a very short period of time. So HCX helps with mergers and acquisitions, i.e. the data center consolidation. If you're going down from 10 data centers down to 6, or whatever the number is. If you want to repurpose infrastructure, whether you want to move to VMware Cloud on AWS, GCVE, AVS, Oracle VMware Cloud Engine, etc. If you want to modernize your infrastructure, if you want to capture new workloads and you want to migrate or move off of KVM or Hyper-V, you've got your VCF licenses, and you want to ensure that you've got that using the maximum amount of workloads or the maximum amount of your licenses. HCX provides that capability. Okay, and on the far right, we provide the ability to optimize your footprint, so you can move from VMware Cloud on AWS, you could move back on-prem, and you can move to GCVE. It gives you that ability to move workloads between multiple different cloud providers. Okay, so sorry. So what does HCX provide? It provides the way to move workloads, but in a non-disruptive manner, and also a reboot for some workloads, or depending on how you want to migrate. So if we look at the workload mobility, oh, sorry, if we look at the workload mobility options, here we've got a number of different ways that we can migrate, and I'm going to go into these in a bit more detail. So cold migration, bulk migration, vMotion, HCX assisted vMotion, and I'll explain all the different options of these. Okay, but we can also do using vRealize Network Insight or area operations for networks. We can provide what are called mobility groups. So think of it as migration waves. So when you want to migrate 100 VMs, you might want to carve that up into 250 groups of 50 VMs that you want to migrate. And each one of those mobility groups, you can define their communication paths or the flows of the application using VCF network operations or area operations for networks to build those mobility groups. And migration estimation is about how long is it going to take you to migrate a workload. So HCX can work within a data center, can work externally, and you're going to see that working in the demo. So within HCX, you get the ability to use WAN optimization as well. If you're over a slow internet link going from one location to another, we can optimize the flow of data between over a slow link. What I classify as a slow link is around about less than 1.5 gig. I wouldn't use WAN optimization, on a link that is faster than 1.5 gig. It doesn't provide any benefit. And also, when we talk about hybrid connectivity, HCX provides the ability of extending a network at layer 2, and you're going to see that in the demo. And we provide the ability to do high availability. We also provide the ability to do traffic engineering and mobility optimized networking. And I'm going to try and get into that in a bit. But now what I want to do is show you HCX and the environment. So before we jump into the environment, what I want to do is show you what I'm going to show you. So we've got two environments within my lab. I've got an environment in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I've also got an environment in London. Okay, and we've got a number of VMs sitting here on an NSX overlay segment. Now, this segment at the source, the source data center that we're going to migrate from, can be a VLAN or can be an overlay. It doesn't matter. Okay, and what we're going to do is migrate one of the VMs, from Sofia and migrate it into London. And we're going to connect that VM to a layer 2 extension, which has a name of layer 2 extension. And that name is given by HCX when it's created. So when you go into the GUI, you can see that you just add networks or add a network extension. And HCX creates this network extension for you. You don't need to create this tunnel. It's all part of what is called the HCX service mesh, i.e. the virtual machines that are deployed to provide that capability. Okay, and the stars at the very end are a UUID, and you see that within the lab, and I'll mention that. Okay, and at the very top you have, if you like, the management plane. You have the HCX managers located in Sophia and in London, and that's how you do that site peering. Okay, and then from those managers you deploy what capability do I want within the service mesh, and then that within that the service mesh deployment, the HCX managers deploy what are called the fleet appliances. Okay, so the IX appliance, the network extension appliance, the WAN optimization appliance, etc., etc. Okay, but realistically, in the demo, what we're going to do is move a VM from Sophia, yeah, and we're going to move it over with zero downtime, and we're going to connect it into an environment in London, and the VM that is in Sophia and in London are going to still have that layer 2 capability, even though they're in multiple different data centers. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So, okay, let's jump into the network, into the lab. So what we've got here is along the top, we've got a number of tabs. We've got a vCenter in Sophia and then a vCenter in London. Okay, so every tab on the left, yeah, so we've got NSX in Sophia, yeah, and we've got an NSX manager in in London, and then we've got the HCX manager in Sophia and the HCX manager in London. Okay, so let me just quickly show you what we've got. So the VMs that we're going to move here are Web01 A and Web02. Yeah. So if I quickly show you, yeah, look, you see that the VM is connected to a distributed port group. It's an overlay network, but it's called LS Web. Okay, so they're both connected to that environment. So if I show you the topology within NSX, so if I go to networking within NSX and show you the topology, because that will help show you. Okay, so what we've got underneath this environment in Sophia is we've got a tier 0 router with a segment that's connected to into that tier 0 router, and then we've got 3 virtual machines. Now, if I expand those virtual machines, yeah, you actually see the 2 web VMs, but you also see this other virtual machine which ends in network extension. Okay, so and this is the network extension device that is going to extend this segment into London, and it has a peer virtual appliance that we're going to use. Okay, so let's have a look there. So if I log into the NSX manager in London, okay, and do exactly the same, go to networking and looking at the topology. Okay, so here what we have is a tier 1 gateway, which has been provisioned by HCX for me. When I see the segment, you see the name layer 2 extension LS Web and then a UUID. HCX has created this segment, this NSX segment, to connect virtual machines to, and it creates a unique ID, unique name. You can rename that, yeah, before you migrate VMs. It's just the way that it automatically gets created. So have a look at the VM that is actually located here. This will be the network extension appliance, yeah, in London, and you see there is no other VMs here. Okay, so let's jump into HCX. Okay, so this is the dashboard. So you can see that between the 2 sites, what you've got a slightly different icon for the Sophia site. Okay, and that's because it's a connector, and I'm going to briefly explain a connector. Okay, and at the destination site, yeah, in London, it's got a cloud, because that is because the cloud or the manager is a cloud concept, and I'm going to explain that a bit later. Okay, so you have site pairings and things like that, but because it takes because I'm running a hosted environment in London and a hosted environment in Sophia, it takes about, and we're going over slow link, it takes me about 20 minutes to migrate a VM. So what I'm going to do is start the migration off so that you can actually see it complete. So what we do when we want to do a migration, Okay, you go through into this screen, the migration screen. Oh, and these are the previous migrations that have completed. So what I click on migrate. Okay, this then takes me down to if you like, a wizard or a set of questions that it's going to ask me. Now you see here the top way that it's going to do a migration is saying, right, I'm going to go via a non-vSphere inventory. Okay, that's going to use what is called the OSAM appliance. Okay, which is for migrating from KVM, yeah, or Hyper-V to vCenter. We don't want to do that. So what I want to do is go from a vSphere environment to vSphere environment in this lab. So what I'm going to do is then just select a VM that I want to migrate. And here's the two VMs that I want to migrate. I'm just going to select Web02. Okay. I'm going to add it right to it. Now, I'm only migrating a single VM. Okay. Realistically, you're not going to migrate a single VM. You're going to migrate 100, 150 VMs at a time. HCX is about doing a mass migration of a data center. Customers use it, yeah, to migrate 60,000, 80,000, 170,000 VMs from one location to another. It is a proven utility to do mass migrations from one environment to another. So at the top here, I'm just going to call it a mobility group of or migration wave that we're going to call it. We're on the VCF webinar, so I'm just going to call the VCF webinar. So I'm going to add that VM that I'm going to move, and I'm only going to move one VM. So exactly the same. I'm saying, where do I want the VM to appear? Do I want it to appear in what cluster? I can even specify a host. I'm just going to say put it on this cluster. Okay. I'm also then going to say, okay, what do I want to migrate it to? What default data store? Right. So I'm going to say I'm going to put it on this management cluster vSAN environment. Okay. The migration profile. Now, because the VM is powered on, HCX has already said, well, you can't use cold migration, and I haven't configured something called HCX assisted vMotion in this environment. So it's only given me the migration methods that I've actually got available. And I'm going to select replicated assisted vMotion. I'm then going to say what VM or where do I want the VM to appear, yeah, in the inventory. I'm just going to say discovered virtual machines. Okay, I'm going to say thin provision because this is a lab environment. Now, if I'm doing a migration, HCX provides the ability, okay, and RAV does replication and vMotion. So if I need to migrate a series of VMs at 2 o'clock on a Sunday, 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I can schedule when the cutover or the switchover starts. Okay, and but I can replicate the data, starting, 2 weeks in advance and say, I want the cutover. And replicated assisted vMotion is a mixture of host-based replication and vMotion. So rather than doing a serial copy of a single VM, getting that VM copied over, then starting the next vMotion, replicated assisted vMotion copies 98, 99% of the VM over in advance, and it keeps that up to date every 2 hours. So it keeps the replication in sync. And then when the switchover occurs, it does a vMotion, which means that the time that it takes to migrate a large number of machines is massively reduced, because the majority of the data that we need to get to the destination is already there. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say switch over as fast as possible. Okay, but we can also do things like remove snapshots and things like that. We can have multiple service meshes, and I'll go into service meshes in a bit more detail. So you can have multiple different service meshes to optimize the migrations as well. But we can also do advanced things like upgrading the virtual machine, okay? Because I'm extending the network, I'm retaining the MAC, I'm also retaining the IP address. I can upgrade the virtual machine tools, I can disable enhanced vMotion capability, etc. I can do replicate security tags, migrate custom attributes, so I can create anything that I want to as part of the migration, okay? And for an individual VM, and this can all be scripted, I can actually enable what is called a seed checkpoint. So as part of the replication process, if the replication fails, yeah, rather than starting off the whole replication again, it will start where it failed. Okay. So I'm not going to do that within this lab, but you've got that amount of capability. So you can hit validate or you can hit go, which will do the validation for you. So I'm going to hit go, and it's going to start that process off for me. So this will take around about 20 minutes or so for the migration. So you can see that the migration has started. What I'm also going to do is actually, because I'm migrating Web02, what I'm going to do is kick off a ping, between Web02 or Web01 and Web02. So its IP address is 172.16.10.12. Okay, Web01 is .11. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that running, okay, while it's doing that migration, so we can see that we've still got connectivity while we're doing the migration. So it's a non-disruptive migration that we're going to do. So if I go back, you can see from the dashboard, you've seen the site pairing. Okay, I've got a pairing between Sophia and London. Okay, and I've already said that you can see the different management constructs. Okay, so when we talk about the service mesh, you see that I've created these service meshes, okay, between Sophia and London. And if I go back to vCenter, you see these VMs that have been created, and I have an IX appliance, which is the appliance that I do the migration for. I also see the network extension, and I also see the Sentinel gateway. And on the destination, I see the IX appliance, the network extension, and the software or the Sentinel data receiver, i.e. at the source. Okay. So, but so you see that site pairing of those appliances that have been created. So I can look at the appliances here, but you can actually see the IX appliance, the network extension appliance, and the Sentinel gateway. Okay. So let's have a quick look at network extension. Okay, so hopefully it will spin up. Okay, so here, if I look at the network extension between the source, so you see the source network, logical segment web. That's just the name. Okay, and as I've said before, it is this is an overlay network. Okay, but I'm also extending it to an NSX extension or NSX overlay network, which is called Layer 2 Extension Layers Web, and its UUID. Okay, but at the source, it can be a VLAN ID. We can do a distributed port group to do that migration. Okay, so if I quickly show you the system type, so you can see the local environment, because I'm here on the left-hand tab at Sophia. Okay, you can see that I'm a connector. At the remote site, I'm a cloud manager. So in Sphere, I've got a connector and I've got a cloud. Okay, so we've kicked off that migration, and it is actually kicking off, and we can see how fast or how long it's actually taking, whether it's actually started. Okay, so we've got a number of events that have already started as part of the migration. So it's validating a whole load of it's validating the source, validating the target, from a compute perspective, from a storage perspective, from a network perspective, to ensure that that migration is going to be successful. We've got the resources that we've got at the source. We've got the relevant and the required resources at the destination. Okay, so we're going to leave this running, and I'm going to go back and jump in through some more slides now to hopefully explain a few more things around HCX while that migration is taking place. So we've got a number of components within that mesh. And I've already said around about whether we've got a connector, whether we've got a connector or a cloud. Okay, so you see here that we have a vCenter and a connector. Here, you do not on the source site, you don't see NSX. So you do not need NSX at the destination. So you can go from like a pure vSphere only environment to VCF. Okay, so this is the source here, and we can migrate to a cloud. The destination needs to be a cloud, and there's a thing called a reverse migration. So if you need to fail back or move a workload back for some unknown reason, you can do that. It's called a reverse migration. But the cloud needs access into vCenter for inventory purposes, but it also needs access to NSX at the destination if you need to do any network extensions or the ability to do anything. Okay, but yeah, so at the destination you need NSX and you need vCenter. At the source, you just need a vCenter and a distributed port group to migrate from. Okay. 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 So what we have is you have a management plane. So the connector has a site peering between the manager. So this connector, if you had a NSX here, you could have a cloud because you can go from a cloud to a cloud. You can go from a connector to a cloud, but you can't go from a HCX connector to a connector. Yeah, at least one of the destinations needs to be connector. Okay, and then you have these fleet appliances, yeah, which we've already talked about. Network extension, the Sentinel gateway, which does the OSAM from KVM or Hyper-V, WAN optimization, and the IX appliance, which does the migrations in whatever form we need to do. And they're all peer together. So at the source site, they have a peer appliance, both at the source and destination. Okay, so from a network extension topology point, this is how we do that network or layer 2 network extension. Okay, so we provide the capability extending networks, and we can do that in a high availability mode. So if you need to upgrade these devices and as part of the process, yeah, or while you're doing a migration, there's you need to provide connectivity back into that source data center while you're migrating, and think of it as you're migrating like say a third of your workloads over. They might need to connect back into a virtual machine which is still at the destination for a period of weeks or months. Yeah, so you need that to be a redundant connection. Yeah, so that's what network extension high availability provides. And we provide a huge amount of capability around mobility optimized network, and potentially we might need to do a separate different section on that. Okay, but HCX provides the ability to extend layer 2 networks across the internet for you, or within data centers if you don't want to run that over your existing fabric. Okay, so there's different ways to actually do a migration. So obviously you can do a vMotion. Now a HCX vMotion uses the IX appliance. The IX appliance is seen from a vCenter as another ESXi host. And so when we do a vMotion, it moves it to that IX appliance. And then actually the IX appliance, you say, okay, I'm going to move it to the destination. HCX assisted vMotion or direct actually uses the ESXi hosts, and we can actually move up to 50 current vMotions between site, or between environments. Okay, HCX bulk migrations allows us to do up to 1,000 migrations, concurrent migrations. So if you've got a lot of VMs to move, and you can get some downtime because bulk needs a reboot of the VMs, so it uses host-based replication to do the migration. Now, if you've got VMs that are powered off, Yeah, you can schedule those, you can do those automatically using HCX, and it will automatically use cold migration to do it. OS assisted migration and replicated assisted vmigration were the two migration options that were only available in the top tier of HCX previously. So OS assisted migration, yeah, is migrating from Hyper-V and KVM. Replicated assisted vMotion is the best of both worlds. It's a migration of bulk and vMotion. Okay, so if I've got a large number of VMs that I want to migrate in a minimal amount of time, I can do the host-based replication in advance and then do zero downtime. Yeah, so I don't need a reboot to migrate a large number of VMs. And as you can see, I can either do 200 VMs per mesh, that's per service mesh, up to 1,000 concurrent VMs concurrently. And I'm going to do a serial copy of a VM, which is going to be the delta between what is based on the replication up to 2 hours ago. Yeah, so it's a very quick way of doing that. Okay, so very quickly, what we talked around is C checkpoint and what happens when the copy fails, right? If you're copying over slow link, do you really want to start the copy again? No, right? So that C checkpoint provides that ability of that. Yeah, it's on by default for bulk. But you can actually specify whether you want to do it for replicated assisted vMotion. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have dark sites or sites that can't connect into yeah, or have limited or restricted access or no access onto the internet. HCX, if I go back 9 months a year, yeah, needed connectivity into the internet. That is no longer the case. HCX supports, if you like, those dark sites, those sites that cannot connect to the internet. And there's ways that we can provide that. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over mobility optimized network. Okay, simply because of the interest of time, because I'm looking at it. Okay, but what ability optimized networking provides is when you migrate workloads to the destination, it stops the tromboning of traffic back to the source, and we can do that in a very intelligent way. Okay, so if you want to learn more about HCX mobility optimized networking and what that brings to migrations, please reach out to your account team and we can go into a deeper dive into that environment or into that topic. Okay, so what I want to do now is just provide because HCX might be new to a lot of you. So I want to provide a list of tools and labs that are available. Okay, so within the webinar, you should see a link to resources that have got all these links. You're also going to get a copy of the slides where you're going to get these slides to take place. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is go back to hopefully the lab, and I suspect it's not going to be finished. Okay, but you can see that it's now taken, doing a whole load of different tasks within the migration. It hasn't actually completed, but if I look at the destination, what you might see, okay, it's perfect timing. So as you can see here, because we're doing a replication, you're seeing what is called the mule VM actually at the destination. So the migration hasn't completed, but it's created the VM. It's done the initial copy, which is actually in the within vCenter, and it's called the mule. So what it's doing is it's half, a fair amount way there, but not complete. But you can see that it will that the migration will complete. Okay, okay, so. Right, so in the interest of time, what I'm going to do, because we've got a couple of more minutes to hand over, okay, we've looked at it. Now, to just recap, okay, HCX makes migrating workloads from different data centers, availability zones, different even from different environments within a data center. It makes migrating or moving those workloads faster and far easier. It's a proven technology. HCX has been around for many, many, many years and has been used in a lot of migrations. Okay, so it saves you less time. I'm not going to point out the latest IDC, the IDC report from 2020, but yeah, it's a proven tool that will make your life easier and provide the migration to VCF or put those workloads into a new environment far easier and far quicker. Okay. So, Carl, I'm going to hand back to you now, and then if you wrap it up, and then I can quickly go back and see whether the migration has finished before we wrap up.
That's
Carl,
perfect. Thank you, Andy. It was another foray with a live demo, and so yeah, it's great. Hopefully, in the last few minutes, we'll be able to see that complete. But yeah, so thank you, Andy, for taking that through us the HCX migrations. I know there was a lot in there. Several people have been asking about where the recordings are going to be placed, so have a look in the Q&A. We'll put those up on the registration page during next week. What I wanted to call out is a thank you to the people who might have been on the call who attended yesterday's London VMUG. Uh, Excellent event at BBC Television Centre. I've never been there. I saw a couple of presenters across the foyer. I'm not going to name drop, but it was quite an experience on multiple levels. The next London VMUG event is going to be on the 3rd of July. I will post the link in the chat. So if you live near London and you would like to get involved, if you've not been familiar with the VMUG, basically, I won't labour it because we covered it last month, but it's the user group, the VMware user group. So there's some collateral. Go off and have a look at the vmug.com. But if you'd like to join your local chapter, there's several around the country and in Ireland. And next time I'll do a little bit more of talking around the local chapters and how to get involved. But I thought, given the fact that it was London's yesterday, it was a great event. Just want to call out the organisers. So a lot of the organisers for the user groups are independent. They don't work for Broadcom. So I just want to take a moment to thank Chris Bradshaw, Dave Simpson, Rob Bishop, and John Pratt, and the many my internal colleagues within Broadcom for making that a successful event. So hopefully in the future you can attend. Um, Again, if you've enjoyed this webinar, learned something, feel free to share the links with your colleagues. We're really pleased with the attendance we're getting some great feedback. So finally, again, please fill in the survey. It does help us decide the topic for the next webinar, which will be the last Friday of May. So with a couple of minutes to spare, Andy, um, do we
uh,
have a migration?
let's have a look. Okay, so let's go up. Okay, it's still switching over, but let's have a look at, because that's sometimes there's a cleanup process. So there we go. It's actually okay. It looks like it's been migrated. Okay, there we go. So the VM's been migrated, but HCX is doing a cleanup of the replication and all of that. But the VM has actually been migrated. So if we have a quick look and we start this, let's have a quick. Oh, sorry, don't know why. Okay, so there we go. So we had two packets dropped while we did that migration from Sophia to London. So yeah, that's pretty good on a migration. With bear in mind my environment is a lab, is a hosted environment, which I would never, well, we don't support for production environment, but yeah, realistically in a production environment, it's going to be even less than that, far less than that. Okay, so
Perfect. So that's perfect timing. We're just within a minute. So finally, thank everybody for attending. And on behalf of the UK solution architecture team in the UK and Ireland, really appreciate it. Please make your comments. It will help us define what's the next session we want to run. Yeah, so thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you on the last Friday of May. We will update the Zoom invite for the topic within the next couple of weeks. So we'll review the feedback, and then we will update the Zoom invite for next month's topic. So thank you very much for joining, and have a good weekend. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Andy. Bye.